Vincent van Gogh's Woman Walking in a Garden is a painting that doesn't shout for attention, but instead whispers something gentle and profound to those who take the time to look closely. Painted in 1887, during his transformative years in Paris, this work is often overshadowed by his more explosive later pieces like Starry Night or Sunflowers, yet it holds a quiet power all its own. The painting depicts a solitary woman strolling through a lush garden, her figure almost blending into the foliage around her. Unlike many of Van Gogh's later works, which pulse with emotional intensity, this one carries a sense of calm, a fleeting moment of peace captured on canvas. The colors are soft, greens and blues dominate, with hints of pink and yellow suggesting sunlight filtering through leaves. The brush strokes are quick and lively, a technique he adopted from the Impressionists he admired in Paris, yet they lack the frantic energy of his later Als period. Instead, they create a rhythm, a visual melody that feels almost like the rustling of leaves in a light breeze. The woman herself is anonymous, her face indistinct, as if Van Gogh was less interested in her identity than in her presence within the garden. She becomes part of the landscape, a fleeting figure in a world of growing things. This anonymity gives the painting a universal quality. She could be anyone, or perhaps she is meant to represent the idea of a woman in a garden rather than a specific person. There is something timeless about her, as if she has stepped out of a dream or a poem. The garden around her feels alive, not in the wild, untamed way of his later wheat field with crows, but in a gentle, cultivated way. This is nature as a place of refuge, a sanctuary. The dappled light suggests late afternoon, a golden hour when everything seems to glow softly. It's a moment suspended in time, one that feels both intimate and infinite. What makes this painting particularly fascinating is its place in Van Gogh's artistic journey. When he arrived in Paris in 1886, his work was still heavily influenced by the dark, earthy tones of Dutch realism. Paintings like The Potato Eaters were somber, almost grim, focused on the harsh realities of peasant life. But in Paris, he encountered the bright, broken colors of the Impressionists, Monet, Pissarro, Degas, and his palette began to shift. He started experimenting with lighter, more vibrant hues, and his brushwork became looser, more expressive. Woman Walking in a Garden sits right in the middle of this transition. It's not as dark as his early work, but it's not yet the explosion of color and emotion that would come in Als. Instead, it's a bridge, a painting that shows him trying out new techniques while still holding on to some of the quieter, more contemplative qualities of his earlier style. The influence of Japanese woodblock prints is also visible here. Van Gogh was an avid collector of ukiyo-e prints, and their flattened perspectives, bold outlines, and decorative patterns seeped into his work. In Woman Walking in a Garden, you can see how he plays with depth. The woman is slightly off-center, the foliage around her arranged in a way that feels almost two-dimensional at times, yet the overall effect is one of harmony. The composition is balanced but not rigid, allowing the eye to wander through the scene naturally. There's a sense of movement, not just in the woman's walking figure, but in the way the leaves and flowers seem to sway around her. It's a painting that breathes. Yet for all its beauty, Woman Walking in a Garden remains one of Van Gogh's lesser-known works. Part of this is simply due to the fact that it doesn't have the dramatic backstory of some of his other pieces. There's no severed ear, no swirling night sky, no sunflowers bursting with life. It's a quiet painting, and quiet paintings often get overlooked. Another reason is that many of his Paris period works are held in private collections, making them less visible to the public. But there's something deeply moving about this understated masterpiece. In a world that often remembers Van Gogh for his turbulence, his mental health struggles, his intense emotional outbursts, this painting reminds us that he was also capable of profound serenity. It's a glimpse of a man who found solace in nature, who could lose himself in the simple act of observing light and shadow playing across leaves. In recent years, there's been a growing appreciation for Van Gogh's quieter works. As art lovers and scholars dig deeper into his catalog, paintings like Woman Walking in a Garden are being re-evaluated for their subtle brilliance. They may not have the immediate impact of Starry Night, but they reward close looking. There's a delicacy here, a sensitivity to the everyday beauty of the world that speaks to Van Gogh's deep connection to his surroundings. The garden in this painting isn't just a backdrop, it's a living, breathing presence, and the woman walking through it becomes part of its rhythm. For those who love Van Gogh's art, this painting offers a chance to see a different side of him. It's a reminder that his genius wasn't just in his boldest, most dramatic works, but also in his ability to capture quieter, more introspective moments. In a way, Woman Walking in a Garden feels like a secret, a hidden gem waiting to be discovered by those willing to look beyond the famous masterpieces. It's a painting that doesn't demand attention, but instead invites contemplation. And in that invitation, there's something deeply beautiful, a moment of stillness in the whirlwind of Van Gogh's life, a single breath held in paint. The more time you spend with this painting, the more it reveals. The way the light catches the edges of the leaves, the subtle variations in the greens, the almost ghostly presence of a woman, it all comes together to create a sense of quiet wonder. It's a work that feels both of its time and timeless, a snapshot of a fleeting moment that somehow manages to feel eternal. In the end, Woman Walking in a Garden is a testament to Van Gogh's ability to find beauty in the ordinary, to transform a simple stroll through a garden into something poetic and profound. It may not be his most famous painting, but in its own way, it's just as much a masterpiece.